In the silent mountains of Dagestan, forged by tradition, hardship, and an iron will to survive, a new breed of warrior was born. These weren't just athletes. They were walking nightmares for anyone who dared step into the cage with them. What began as whispers of domination soon became a roar that shook the MMA world to its core. From grinding wrestling mats in freezing gyms to blinding lights of UFC title fights, the Dagestani invasion wasn't just a wave, it was a reckoning. It was no longer about who had the flashiest strikes or biggest following. Now it was about who could survive. And when these men walked in, survival was no longer an option. It was a fantasy. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to break, to suffocate, to erase any hope before it even flickered. Fighters trained their whole lives only to realize it meant nothing when facing a Dagestani beast. You could be the better striker, the sharper boxer, the louder talker. But once the cage closed, none of that mattered. What mattered was pressure. What mattered was control. And no one personified that better than the man who started it all. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the eagle from Dagestan, turned the octagon into his personal domain. Unbeaten, uncut, unshaken. He didn't just beat opponents, he dismantled them. He took their will, their pride, and every ounce of resistance they had left. There was something deeper to Khabib than just wrestling. His father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, had carved a vision with his bare hands, raising an army of disciplined warriors in the harshest terrains, where comfort didn't exist and excuses were never allowed. Khabib was the chosen one, but his father had plans beyond him. When Khabib finally retired, undefeated, untouchable, the prophecy lived on. Next, Islam will take over, his father had said. And like destiny calling from the mountains, Islam Makhachev rose not as a shadow of Khabib, but as something entirely more terrifying. He was colder, calculated, and frighteningly complete, a fighter with no weakness. Islam didn't come for showmanship or trash talk, he came for blood. And what's worse, he came smiling. Calm, methodical, and precise, Islam dismantled the best the UFC had to offer, like he was solving puzzles, not fighting men. Charles Oliveira, the jiu-jitsu nightmare, submitted. Volkanovski, the pound-for-pound king, knocked out. Islam was doing things that shouldn't be possible. He wasn't supposed to outstrike elite boxers. He wasn't supposed to outgrapple the grapplers. But he did. Every time. And every time he walked away barely scratched, as if the wars were nothing more than training drills. And the scarier part? He's still not in his prime. Opponents enter the cage thinking they prepared for him. They think they've watched the tapes, studied the angles, rehearsed every counter. But Islam doesn't repeat patterns. He evolves. The moment the bell rings, he traps you in a game you didn't train for. You can't strike with him, you can't wrestle with him, and you sure as hell can't break him. As the rounds pass, your lungs scream, your mind crumbles, and suddenly you're not fighting for the win, you're praying for the end. Islam's squeeze alone has turned elite fighters into helpless statues. His top control makes grown men freeze. The moment he wraps you up, it's already too late. But the Dagestani dynasty didn't stop with him. While Islam ruled the UFC, another force was silently clearing out Bellator, Usman Nurmagomedov. Khabib's cousin, molded by the same fire, carried the family legacy forward with terrifying grace. Unlike Khabib, Usman is a blend of lethal striking and suffocating wrestling. He doesn't just dominate, he slices through opponents with a precision that's surgical. Bellator couldn't stop him. Nobody could. And now the whispers have started. When Islam vacates the UFC belt, Usman will come. And when he does, it won't just be a continuation of the reign. It'll be the next chapter of absolute control. The scary part is, he's not alone. Umar Nurmagomedov, another cousin, another prodigy, has already carved a name into the bantamweight division. Fast, creative, and unforgiving, Umar moves like a ghost and hits like a hammer. His early setback in a title shot wasn't the end. It was the spark. A broken hand, a loss on paper, but a lesson written in fire. He's coming back, smarter, sharper. And when he returns, the division better be ready. Because Umar isn't here for points, he's here to rewrite the narrative in blood. And then there's Shara, the pirate Bullet Magomedov, the one-eyed monster who laughs in the face of logic. Where most Dagestani fighters prefer grappling, Shara is pure chaos on the feet. A brawler, a showman, and a savage rolled into one. His spinning back fist knockout wasn't just highlight reel material, it was a declaration. With just one eye, he made fans roar and opponents freeze. He doesn't play by rules, he doesn't stall or wait. He storms in and creates a war you can't escape. And despite a recent loss, no one dares count him out. He's the kind of nightmare that doesn't fade, it evolves. But while the world keeps watching Islam, Khabib, and Shara, another monster quietly waits. Magomed Ankalaev, a high-level striker with the wrestling base to shut down anyone's offense. Ankalaev is the storm on the horizon. His path to a title was delayed, but now the UFC has finally set the stage. Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, the most dangerous Brazilian against the coldest Caucasian predator. And make no mistake, Ankalaev is not coming to play. He's coming to claim what should have been his years ago. A reign of dominance that starts with Pereira's fall. There's a certain madness that pulses through the veins of the Dagestani bloodline. It's not just skill or training, it's a state of mind. A complete surrender to violence. That's what separates them from the rest. And if Ankalaev brings that storm against Pereira, he won't just be fighting for a belt, he'll be solidifying a legacy that's been passed from mountain to mountain, father to son, brother to brother. But the list doesn't stop there. Another dark horse is quietly dismantling middleweight giants, Nasruddin Imavov. Calm on the outside, calculated on the inside. He's not just beating contenders, he's shutting down hype trains. Israel Adesanya was supposed to rebound against him. Instead, he got folded and forgotten. The new guard isn't knocking politely, they're kicking down doors. Imavov's pressure game is different. It's not reckless aggression, it's a chess match with fists. He studies, adapts, overwhelms. If you think you have him figured out in the first round, you'll be gasping for answers by the third. His striking is fluid, and his takedowns come like silent traps. He doesn't fight for entertainment, he fights for control. And when he wins, it's never close, it's never a fluke. It's domination by design. And if the UFC matchmakers have any sense of spectacle left, they'll line him up against Khamzat Chimaev. A collision of chaos and control, a battle of the two most unpredictable beasts in the division. Speaking of Khamzat, how do you even describe a fighter like that without using words like savage, nightmare, or unstoppable? He doesn't fight like a human being. He hunts. Khamzat doesn't care about rankings or titles. He wants to break people. The way he bulldozes through opponents, lifts them mid-fight while trash-talking Dana White, and still submits them effortlessly. It's not arrogance. It's confidence built on destruction. No matter how experienced you are, once you're in his grip, you're just another body being thrown into oblivion. And the worst part, he hasn't even been tested yet. Not truly, not fully. Khamzat is a storm in human form. And storms don't pick favorites. They destroy everything in their path. Robert Whittaker, Gilbert Burns, Li Jingliang, names that meant something before facing Chimaev, now reduced to victims. But Khamzat doesn't want fame. He wants fear. He wants you to hesitate when you see his name on the contract. He wants to be the reason you second-guess your career. And if the UFC finally gives him that title shot, it's not just a belt that's at stake, it's the future of an entire division. And behind him, waiting in the shadows, is a fighter no one's talking about enough. Movsar Evloev. Movsar isn't loud. He's not flashy. But step into the cage with him, and you'll wish he was. He doesn't just win, he dominates. His victory over former champion Aljamain Sterling was a message to the world. He's coming, and nothing is going to stop him. A relentless pace, perfect grappling transitions, unshakable composure. Movsar is what happens when precision meets obsession. Every movement is calculated, every exchange controlled. He doesn't leave room for mistakes, he forces them. And when they happen, he capitalizes with ruthless efficiency. He doesn't ask for opportunities, he takes them. And then there's Arman Tsarukyan, the silent sniper of the lightweight division. His UFC debut was against Islam Makhachev. on short notice, and he fought him to a razor-thin decision. That wasn't luck. That was raw skill. Umar is one of the few who can match Dagestanis in their own game. Strong grappling, explosive striking, elite cardio. He's built like a weapon. After that debut, Umar didn't hide in the shadows. He sharpened himself in fire, fighting killers like Benil Dariush and Joaquin Silva. Every step was a war. Every win was a statement. And now, with the title within reach, he's ready to unleash the version of himself that's been quietly building in silence. The most chilling thing about Umar is that he doesn't need the spotlight. He's not chasing fame. He's chasing greatness. He wants to be remembered as the man who dethroned legends and built a legacy without ever needing to scream for it. In a division packed with monsters, Umar doesn't just survive, he thrives. He breaks fighters mentally and physically, dragging them into deep waters and daring them to swim, and one by one, they drown. Arman Tsarukyan isn't the future. He's the reset button for the entire lightweight hierarchy. And if the title fight comes, he won't ask for it to be easy. He'll demand that it be brutal. But legends don't only rise from dominance, they also rise from mystery. And perhaps the greatest what-if in the world of MMA is Khabib Nurmagomedov. Long-limbed, unorthodox, and dripping with talent, Khabib was a fighter who made people believe in magic. He danced between strikes like a ghost, landed spinning kicks like they were jabs, and turned every fight into a highlight reel. But beneath the flair was a dagger-sharp grappling game that most forgot he had. He wasn't just a striker. He was a complete martial artist with the heart of a warrior and the mind of a tactician. And yet, before reaching his peak, he disappeared. Fans still whisper his name like a legend that could have been. What if he had stayed? What if he had faced Volkanovski or Holloway? Could he have been champion? Could he have ruled? These questions echo in every debate, every list of pound-for-pound potentials. Khabib didn't lose because of skill. He lost to circumstance. And yet, even in absence, his aura remains. That's the mark of greatness. Not just what you did, but what people believe you could have done. Khabib's legacy is a haunting one. A reminder that even in dominance, time waits for no one. But for every Khabib lost to the shadows, there are new monsters emerging into the light. One of them is Makhachev, the Punisher. Born in Dagestan, raised in England, and driven by fire, Makhachev is a storm wrapped in youth. Undefeated and violent, he enters fights with one goal: hurt and humiliate. His opponents don't just lose, they're broken. Called reckless by critics and fearless by fans, Makhachev brings emotion into every fight. And yet, underneath that fury lies a deadly system. Every takedown, every submission attempt, every strike is part of a deeper rhythm. A rhythm born from pain and sharpened in discipline. And though the UFC released him, the world knows it's only temporary. The Punisher is coming back, and when he does, someone's getting hurt. There's something terrifying about a man who fights with one eye and still sees the end coming for you. Shara Bullet, known across the MMA world as the One-Eyed Pirate, is not just a spectacle, he's a phenomenon. In an era where fighters play safe and calculate risks, Shara craves chaos. He steps into the cage like it's a personal vendetta, dragging his opponents into the kind of brawls that leave fans breathless and fighters broken. He doesn't wrestle, he doesn't hold. He swings, wild, precise, and with vicious intent. And yet every strike comes from years of refined training. His highlight reel spinning back fist wasn't a fluke. It was the result of hours, days, months of obsession. When Shara lost to Michael Page, critics were quick to pounce, but they missed the point. Shara's loss wasn't a fall, it was fuel, a scar to sharpen the blade. You don't measure monsters by their wins alone. You measure them by how they return from war. And Shara isn't coming back to redeem himself. He's coming back to destroy. Every ounce of experience he gained from that setback is now stitched into his style. And when he returns, it won't just be fireworks, it'll be fire and fury. Because the pirate doesn't sail to coast through victories, he comes to conquer. But even as Shara loads his cannons, another titan has quietly arrived at the shores of greatness. The truth is, the era of Dagestani dominance isn't a trend. It's not a phase. It's a generational revolution powered by legacy, culture, and absolute obsession. These fighters don't dream of fame, they train for war. From the mountains of Makhachev to the bright lights of Vegas, they carry with them a code: discipline, humility, and ruthlessness. They don't talk trash, they make promises. And when the cage locks, they deliver. Whether it's Islam smothering world champions or Usman slicing through Bellator's finest, every step they take is part of a larger storm building across the MMA world. It's not just talent, it's systemized destruction. From Abdulmanap's legacy to the new wave of coaches and training institutions across the Caucasus, what we're seeing isn't random, it's engineered. These fighters are groomed from childhood, trained in sambo, wrestling, boxing, and molded into killers by the time most athletes are still learning basics. And when they enter the professional scene, they're already more complete than most veterans. That's why they rise so quickly. That's why they dominate. They weren't built to compete, they were built to conquer. And that brings us to the future. The names we know, Khabib, Islam, Usman, Umar, Shara, they're only the beginning. Behind them, there are hundreds more. Fighters training in silence, watching, waiting, sharpening their blades. Some are already in regional circuits, racking up wins with the same suffocating style. Others are just teenagers, outworking adults, eating snow in between drills, and learning what pain feels like long before they feel glory. This isn't the end of the Dagestani saga, it's the prologue. The empire is only expanding, and the world isn't ready for what's coming next. We often talk about eras in MMA: the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu era, the American wrestling era, the era of strikers and kickboxers. But we're not in an era anymore. We're in a regime of relentless grappling, brutal pressure, and merciless resolve. Fighters who don't care about marketability or drama. Fighters who show up, fight the best, and leave no doubt. These warriors don't make excuses. They don't duck. And when they speak, it's with conviction. Not because they want to sell a fight, but because they believe in their mission. In the end, maybe that's what makes the Dagestani fighters so terrifying. Not just their skills, not just their mindset, but their purpose. They don't see MMA as a career. They see it as duty, a responsibility to uphold the legacy of those who came before, a mission to honor the path paved by giants like Abdulmanap. And when you fight a man with purpose, you're not just battling fists, you're battling generations, lineage, culture, a system that refuses to break. And right now, the world is struggling to keep up. So as the next year unfolds and the titles begin to shift again, don't ask if a Dagestani will rise. Ask who will be left standing once they do. Because in this new world of war, only one truth remains. You can train for speed, you can prepare for power, but you cannot survive a storm that was born in the mountains and baptized in blood. And somewhere, in the shadows of the Caucasus, another warrior ties his boots, sharpens his skills, and whispers to himself one quiet promise: I'm next.